So, Doctor Who, Episode 6, The Vanquishers. I have had a lot of time trying to get my thoughts organized for this review. Because this one is, it's literally been 5 days since I've seen it. I really had to dwell, besides the fact I've had a busy week, I really had to dwell on this one because this episode's a lot like The Rise of Skywalker. You can watch it initially and walk out of it thinking it's at least decent. Or even good, possibly. But the more you think about it, especially when you think about it in the context of the whole series, the more you start to find the problems with it. You start to find how it doesn't hold up, how it doesn't tie all of Flux together. You start to see how it doesn't hold together the way it should. Oh, I don't even know where to I don't even know where to start. Yeah, seriously, this video, oh, God. I don't even know where to start with this video. There's so much going on here. There's so much going on that they literally have to split the Doctor into 3 different versions of her just to cram all of this in, because they need the Doctor to be in 3 different places at once, and they only have this last episode to do it with. They literally have to come up with a reason to split her into 3 different versions of herself so she can run around in all these different areas. I feel that Flux was originally supposed to be longer. I could have sworn when Series 13 was originally announced and they talked about there was going to be an episode reduction again, 8 episodes is what I heard. Everywhere. 8 episodes, 8 episodes, 8 episodes. There's going to be 8 episodes. That's what I heard over and over and over and over and over and over again. We're getting 8 episodes. And when they originally announced the specials for next year, I was like, cool, so that's 11 total. 8 and then 3. And everybody's like, no, Flux is Series 13 is only going to be 6. I'm like, I kept hearing 8. Sure enough, 6. I'm pretty convinced the episode count got reduced by 2. That this was originally supposed to be at least 8 episodes. And it feels like it, because there's so many things that just don't get resolved here, or else they're resolved badly, or they don't pay off properly. It just... Okay. Now, I can buy Whittaker being split into 3. And even she doesn't know why. I'm fine with it. Let's start at where the episode picks up. We ended up on a cliffhanger for the last episode, with Swarm reaching out to her, and now you, Doctor. How does she manage to get out of this? She just kind of pivots to the left. Oh, wow! Thank goodness she thought of that. And then Swarm's like, okay. So originally he was going to kill her right then. And then suddenly he's talking about offering her up as a sacrifice to time itself. More on that. So apparently Swarm doesn't quite know what he wants to do either, because first he's talking about killing her right then, and then he talks about, well, no, I'm going to save you for a sacrifice and just screw with you ahead of time. They opened the fob watch, but instead of giving her memories back, it just shows her a glimpse of the house, which I'm guessing wasn't Longborough, but is actually her memories, because fuck if I know, it doesn't make any damn sense. And Swarm can somehow be there with Azure, because reasons, and he can make the parts of the house go away and then come back, because even though they're supposed to be like the Lords of Destruction or whatever, they can also do creation, and they can make him go away, make him come back, and then he also shows he can do that to her by making her start to dissolve and come back. Apparently he's a powerful dude. Now, how they control the fob watch to just give her a glimpse of that instead of giving her memories back. The Grand Serpent, don't know why he's here. I still feel like this has got to have been something that was originally supposed to have been fleshed out a lot more and wasn't. Still have no idea why the Grand Serpent's here. What happened to the rest of his people? We saw some of his other people in unit, with the tattoos on their arm. Never see any more of them, don't know what's up with that. I do like the fact they leave him at the end on just that little asteroid alone. That was kind of neat. I did enjoy that when he walks through the door and it's just this tiny asteroid. I actually liked that. Good comeuppance. Why he went there by himself. Oh, man. And then Jericho gets killed because no reason at all. Okay, so Claire and Jericho both, you know, they... Okay. So we have the scene with the Sontaran with the chocolate, which is a nice little callback to Strax. I actually didn't mind that. I could see some people being annoyed by that. But it was nice to have one little moment of the comedy Sontarans like Strax. I enjoyed the little chocolate bit. It was fine. And they use that so she can get Claire and Jericho on there. And they do that so they can have Claire's psychic abilities. Claire's psychic abilities. Why is Jericho there? I don't understand why Jericho goes too. There's no reason for Jericho to go. I understand why Claire goes, because it's her psychic abilities they need to get the coordinates. I don't know why Jericho goes. Is he just like the bodyguard? Seems like it's a good excuse just to kill him off. And his death is dumb. He goes to put on the ring and it just falls off and rolls way over there. Let me pull my ring on. Oops, not only did I pull it off, but I accidentally flung it across the room. Don't! And then naturally, that's right when the Sontarans come in and shoot the ring, because all Sontarans are like, there's a human I must shoot, but first let me shoot this ring over here. And Jericho's like, His death is pointless. It is one of the most pointless deaths I've ever seen in Doctor Who. It's almost like Chibs was afraid somebody might like this old white male character. I better get rid of it. I don't know why they killed Jericho off, because he is a popular character. Jericho's great. He's got more personality than Yaz by a country mile. I find him more interesting than Dan. I just liked him. He seemed better developed than either of her actual companions. Plus, I just liked the three companions together, because I don't mind Yaz and I don't mind Dan. I like them. I don't hate them like some of the fan base does. I like them. I'm fine with them. I would have loved a spin-off with Jericho, Yaz, and Dan just traveling the world like they were in Survivors of the Flux. I enjoy that. They made a good trio. So I don't like them killing Jericho off, because one, it's just stupid. There's no point. He shouldn't even have been on the ship. There's no reason for him to just happen to lose his ring. And then there's no reason for him to just die. Well, the TARDIS will get caught in the gravitational, teleport in, teleport out real quick. That's what the TARDIS does. It beams in, it beams out. It materializes in, it materializes out. And then travel back in time a bit. It's also a time machine, Doctor! Or travel back in time a few seconds to before he lost the ring. I think I'm just not in a good mood today. I'm very tired. And it sucks because Jericho's such a cool character. It would have been nice to have seen him back potentially in the future. But now they've kind of written that off. I mean, I guess technically she could go back at any point and still save him. We don't technically see him die. The TARDIS can materialize him right after the camera cuts off of him. Maybe the TARDIS materialized around him and saved him. Because I'd love to see more Jericho. He's a great character. I like Kevin McNally as an actor. And it's amusing to me that of all of the main cast this season, he's the one that I enjoyed the most. I consider him part of the main cast. You know, I found him more interesting than the Doctor, and more interesting than Yaz and Dan. Just seemed like he had better development. Now, to be fair, Whittaker's acting has been better this whole season. She has some good moments here. While I don't like some of the stuff the Doctor does, that's more the writing. Her acting is fine in this episode. I have no issues with it. The scene when her and the Grand Serpent are talking when she's being tortured is good. I've seen where a couple of other people said it's like a standout moment of her era. I don't know if I'll go that far, but it is good. It is really well done. I enjoy it. I like watching her kind of try to get under his skin and taunt him. Seems like a very Doctor thing to do. So I like that. She does feel more like the Doctor this season. I enjoy her. I like when she's interacting with herself and she almost flirts with herself. I like that. To me, that's very the Doctor, at least for some Doctors. Some Doctors wouldn't be like that. I could see some of the other Doctors being like that, though. Not just her, when they have this. I like her. I'm talking. Yeah, I like when the Doctors interact with each other. I think that's done really well, and I think that fits pretty well. I even like that bit when Time looks like her at the end. She goes, I'm getting this whole ego thing now. That feels like especially a modern Doctor. Like, I could see Smith or Tennant saying something like that. Or even Tom or Patrick saying something like that. So I can see some of the Doctors saying something like that. Getting ahead of myself. The Sontarans are fine. Again, I like their design. I don't understand why they bring the Daleks and Cybermen into this even. I guess it's because it needs it to explain the Sontaran trap plot. honestly, I think it's more, hey, we still got all these Dalek outfits and Cyberman costumes laying around. Let's use those. But why do the Cybermen look like the newest version of the Cybermen? Aren't those versions of the Cybermen like far off in the future from like the cyber war that takes place far off in the future? Shouldn't these Cybermen look different, like maybe the Cybermen from Series 2? Because this, you know, these Cybermen are supposed to be from this time period, I'm assuming. I didn't think Cybermen time traveled very often. So, you know, I would assume the Cybermen shouldn't have that modern look. But hey, they still got some of the costumes in the back. Might as well put them to use. And I get the Sultarans are setting the trap. Man, there's a lot of people who die in all of Flux, but especially this one with the Lupari dying, even though we don't see any of it. So we don't have to deal with the consequences of it. But at least the doctor says she's sorry. Which, I mean, I don't know. What can you say in that situation when you find out? You figured the doctor would be hit a lot harder by that, you know, being the last of the Time Lords and for a long time thinking she was the last of the Time Lords. You think she would empathize with, you know, Chewbacca being the last of the Lupari, that she would be a little more hurt by it. But this doctor is very stunted emotionally. Her emotional maturity is very limited. We've seen this many times over the course of her run. She has a lot of problems expressing her emotions, much like when Graham tried to talk to her about the cancer and her inability to communicate with Yaz more effectively. And maybe this is just another example of that. Is just that her doctor is not good at dealing with emotions. Like, she's almost like a child in a way, and emotionally. Where she doesn't know how to deal with these kind of things. She's definitely not what I would call a people person. The bit at the end with the Sultarans when the doctor commits triple genocide. This could be the most undoctor moment I have seen since Capaldi and Kill the Moon, when he just decided to not get involved. You know, the doctor, you know, is the man who never would, but as a woman I will. But to be fair, the whole man never would's kind of crap either. We've seen plenty of instances where male doctors would and have. But not on this scale. 3 races, well, she didn't kill the Daleks. No, she could have stopped it. She knew what they were doing. She knew their plan, and she let it happen. You know, and I'm sorry, if you know what's going to happen and you have the ability to stop it and you don't, you know, she could have done something here. And she didn't. She let the Daleks die. She let the Sultarans die. And this is funny to me because she just got on in episode 2 of War of the Sultarans. She got on to the human general or major or whatever he was. Major, let's call him the major. For blowing up the Sultaran ships with the, you know, the barrel of gunpowder. She got onto, you humans, that's why I just don't even know why I bother with you humans anymore. You don't do that. And because the human killed a bunch of Sultarans. She turns around and kills way more Sultarans, and it's cool. She's fine. Doesn't have any remorse over it. And I know, because I talked with one of my friends about this, and she's like, well, my friend's like, other male doctors do this all the time and get away with it. That's because other male doctors show remorse when they do it. You look at the War Doctor and everything with the Time War. When you see him by a day of the Doctor, dude is guilt-ridden. He's doing it because he feels he has no choice. He doesn't want to do it. It's weighing heavy on him. He's ready to die. I have no desire to survive this, he says. Most of the time when the Doctor does stuff like that, it hits him hard. It's a moral conundrum. You look at Tennant in the Time Lord Victorious bit from Waters of Mars. Once he realizes what he did was wrong after Adelaide dies, you hear him. It's like he reacts like a gut punch, like a punch to the gut. He's like, I've gone too far. Is this it, my death? You know, it hits him. You look at Matt Smith in Beast Below when he realizes he made some mistake. It hits him. Most of the time when the Doctor makes these kind of major calls and he gets it wrong, he suffers. It hits him hard, usually. Now, Remembrance of the Daleks with McCoy destroying Skaro could be an exception. But that might not necessarily be wiping out all of the Daleks either, just that planet, which somehow Skaro survived anyway, so. Yeah, one of my childhood heroes, I will never forget, was in this situation once. I have a childhood hero ever since I was a little kid. He had an opportunity to destroy his greatest enemies. He could wipe them off the face of the planet. All he had to do was touch 2 wires together. And he asked himself an extremely important question. Do I have the right? Now, a lot of the younger Doctor Who fans who are big fans of the Whittaker era aren't going to be familiar with the TV show I'm referencing right now that one of my childhood heroes is from. They're not going to know what I'm talking about. But some of you, I expect, do, especially a lot of you who normally watch my channel. And that is one of that characters, one of my childhood heroes, one of the greatest iconic moments he's ever had. And it's also one of the TV shows, a very long-running TV show. It's one of its most iconic moments in the entire series. Because it does present that moral dilemma. Does he have the right to make that decision? Because if he does make that decision to destroy them, then he becomes, as he says, then I become like them. You don't see any of that with 13. I just wiped out the Sultarans, the Daleks, and the Cybermen. And then never a pause about it. Nothing. You don't even see her feel bad about it. Not even a frown. She just goes on about her business. Maybe she's just emotionally stunted and can't show any of it. I don't know. And people are going to argue with that. People are going to argue, no. I mean, it's only the Daleks. It's only the Daleks. The point is, the Doctor's not the kind of person who's going to make that sacrifice. Even Tennant in... the Evolution of the Daleks two-parter, when Dalek Khan was the only one left, he said, I've already seen one genocide today. I'm not going to cause another. Let me help you. And instead, the Dalek Khan leaves. But Tennant, even at that point, he's like, I'm not going to kill you, even though you're a Dalek. You're everything I despise. I won't kill you. Because I'm the Doctor. I'm not going to see another genocide. Because he regretted everything that happened with the Time War. And so the Doctor is that kind of character. You look at, the War Doctor and how heavy the burden of all that weighed on him. You look at Eccleston in his final episode when they ask him, are you coward or killer? And he's like, coward every time. He couldn't do that again. He'd already had to push a big button once as far as he knew. And he couldn't do it again. He couldn't sacrifice all those lives, even if the ends justified the means, possibly. Whereas here, she's like, well, the ends justifies the means. And it doesn't make sense when... She already had the control of the Lupari ships. She already knew that the passenger could contain the Flux. Now, I've heard the argument that, well, the Flux had to hit, the three armies, the Sultaran, Cybermen, Daleks, so it would be weak enough for the passenger to get it. I'm like, nah, it never says that. The Flux is something that at some point has swept across planets. It shouldn't be that. That didn't weaken it. So I don't believe these little armies were going to weaken it that much to where the passenger could hold it. The passenger part I don't mind. The fact that the passenger can hold it, fine. We know the passengers can hold a lot of stuff, so I'm perfectly willing to accept that. I don't find it as silly as some people would. The passengers were introduced early on, like episode 2, episode 3, I think, so I'm fine with that solution. I think it's a missed opportunity with the villains, because I feel like the villains don't live up to what they're built up to live up to. If you remember, what is it, Halloween Apocalypse? Swarm talks to the Doctor like they know each other well, like almost intimately well. All the eons we have danced across the universe fighting each other. You don't remember any of it. I remember all of it. And then that way, there's never a payoff to that. Never a payoff to that. I mean, you kind of get that one scene when she goes back into the Fugitive Doctor time stream. That's it. I thought they'd been fighting forever. I'd never get that intimate payoff. At this point, you could have just brought Omega back. I mean, part of the Flux is antimatter, right? Omega would have been perfect. And I could have understood Swarm looking the way he does, because that would have been the only body he would have managed to have built from himself. Because, we all know Omega's about trying to get a matter body for himself, Arc of Infinity, which is a very underrated episode. So that would have worked, but instead we get these characters like the whole thing with Azure. We never get the payoff of what happened with her. Now, I know it mentioned in, was it Once Upon a Time? You can either have exile or death of personality, so I'm guessing Azure went with death of personality, and they did the little fob watch thing on her or whatever and turned her human to give her another life. But we never get that payoff from that, of her. We never find out about her husband. We never find out more about her life. It just feels like there was supposed to be a couple more episodes. And then they found out they were only going to have 6 episodes, and a lot of stuff hit the editing floor. A lot of stuff got chop. This is one of those where we're going to need like a director's cut, which we still need a director's cut for Twice Upon a Time, but we need a director's cut to kind of fill some of this in. That being said, after all my complaining, when I first watched The Vanquishers, I was okay with it. I didn't hate it. I didn't turn it off going, oh, that was a waste of my time. That's fine. I didn't mind it. I wasn't sitting here going, Doctor Who's back! I was going, oh, that was okay. It was only, and part of me is like, I need to go ahead and do a review. And I was like, nope. No, this has a Rise of Skywalker feel with it. I need to let this sit. And then it also happened to be that I just had a even busier week than usual, so I was really tied up all day this week. Because it's been 4 days since I've watched it. I watched it on Monday. Today is Thursday. And the more I thought about it, and to be honest, I did read a couple other people's opinions, and some of the things they pointed out made sense. Like the Doctor committing genocide, practically. Like, that, once I read that, I'm like, hey, wait, you're right. The Doctor didn't do things like that. So it's one of those things, the more I think about, the more I have issues. Not necessarily with just this episode itself, but in Flux as a whole. And that's going to be a separate review where I review all of Flux. But the ending with time. Yes, the Doctor comes face to face with time as an enemy because time is a thing, an entity now, a thing. It can, like, corporeal manifest itself. What? And so it just kind of kills Azure and Swarm, or ascends them. Which is, to me, was another waste of these villains. I'm like, that's it? That's it? Just, they're gone. And then she talks to the Doctor, and we get more foreshadowing, very reminiscent of Planet of the Dead, with the, your time is ending, he will knock 4 times. And then, that's pretty much what we get here with her. Then she gives this hint about no regeneration. Yeah, bullshit, we know there's going to be a regeneration, don't give me that. And that bit about, the forces are massing with their master. And yes, it is master. I was watching it with the subtitles, the word master was capitalized, so I'm sure it's the master coming back. Which is fine. I actually think Sasha's master and Whittaker's doctor go well together. So, the fact that it was a capital M for master, I'm sure it's the master. She's like, Master, I restore you. So, in this episode, when time manifests itself as the Doctor, we now have 4 Jodie Whittakers in this episode. Because God has a sense of humor. And because apparently so does Jodie Whittaker, or Chris Chibnall. He's like, you know what? Some of these people aren't big fans of Jodie Whittaker. I'm going to put 4 of her in this story. So she split into 3, which I'm going to be honest, to split into 3 with him, I'm fine. Because I enjoy when she's interacting with other versions of her. When she's interacting with herself, I actually enjoy that too much to not like it. But it's just, there's that side of me that's amused that she's in this story almost as 4 different people. And I'm like, I feel like Chibnall did that on purpose as a middle finger to some of the fans, which just amuses me. The episode by itself, not with Flux, it's like I don't hate it, but I hate some of the things going on in it. The episode is okay. And I know some of you are like, what? And again, I can't make really sense of it either. It's been really hard to try to do this review. I swear to you, it's really hard. I am finally figuring out, I think, why I'm just enjoying watching more Classic Who. Classic Who is just easier to do, because Classic Who is just nowhere near as overly complicated. I mean, and this doesn't have to be this needlessly complicated. Literally, the motto of Flux seems to be, take something simple and complicated, which coincidentally is also the American motto. Is Chibnall actually American, and I just don't know it? But yeah, Classic Who, it's easier to do. I don't have 50 things I'm having to keep up with. Classic Who can be 10 parts with multiple plots, and it's still easier to follow than this. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm just enjoying watching Classic Who more. But yeah, I think that sums it about up. It's hard to know. Oh yeah, the ending scene with Yaz and the Doctor, when they're having their heart-to-heart talk. I'll talk about the good, and then I'll talk about the bad. The good thing I actually like about this scene, when the Doctor and Yaz are having their moment, and that's how I'm going to phrase it, having their moment, because that's what's happening. I like the fact that the 13th Doctor is doing that. Because, again, it's not easy for her to open up. Again, she does not have a good emotional maturity. She seems very emotionally stunted, very childlike. One matter of fact, one of my friends, she has a theory that she thinks the 13th Doctor is autistic. And she doesn't mean that as an insult. She doesn't mean that in any derogatory way. She actually thinks the 13th Doctor is on the autism spectrum. Which, when you think about it, really puts a lot of things into context. That's a neat theory. I should do another whole video on that. But, again, I like seeing the 13th Doctor open up and actually apologize to Yaz and say, I'm sorry, and talk about how she missed her and how she should have been more honest with her and all that. And the fact she's doing all of that, which is very, very hard for her to do. And I think that's some really good emotional growth for her. So I will give that. That being said, the way that scene is done and shot is very queer baiting. It is very, very queer baiting, which is very irksome. It's like the BBC is trying to straddle that line of appealing to both sides of that. Appealing to the LGBT community with, see, obviously there's something going on here. We've been dropping hints. But they're also trying to appeal to the people who don't like the Doctor. Usually in any kind of relationship. It has nothing to do with the fact they're the same gender. A lot of people just don't like the Doctor in a relationship. I remember what a big deal it was when the TV movie came out and the 8th Doctor and Grace kissed. That was a big deal in the Doctor Who community. People didn't like that. A lot of people don't like the 10th Doctor and Rose in Series 2. They just don't care for that very obvious relationship they have going on. That's very frustrating. So there's that camp that just feels the Doctor should be either asexual or close to it. And that the companion should just be a companion. You know, the BBC are trying to appeal to them. Well, we didn't actually come out and say they were dating, or they didn't make out or anything. And the problem with them is the BBC is trying to have its cake and eat it too. It's exactly what they're trying to do. They're trying to appeal to both sides, and all they're going to end up doing is pissing off both sides. Because the LGBTQ community is going to be frustrated that the BBC just won't go all in and actually just say, you know, hey, we're together, or we're talking, or, you know, have them just kiss on screen so we can see it. And whereas in the side over here that doesn't want to see them, it's so blatantly obvious the way they film things that they want it to be like that without actually saying it. You know, like in the first episode of Halloween Apocalypse when they land on the twin beds, the way it's shot there when they're just looking into each other's eyes, and you can practically hear the Air Supply song playing in the background. And they get interrupted by Dan. It's almost like they're looking lovely into each other's eyes. And then Dan's just like, I don't know the way. And it's almost like in the rom-com. When you see them about to kiss, you know, they're closing their eyes, they're leaning in. And then somebody butts in, oh, hey, where are the Doritos? And, you know, you can see them, they're like, and that person's like, oh, you know what I'm talking about. Every rom-com movie has that at least once, right? It's done like that. It's filmed in that way. It's not subtle like Classic Who could do things like that in very subtle ways. Like, for example, I could see where people could think, a lot of Classic Who, with the companion and the Doctors, you get this notion of things that aren't being said. Like with maybe the 3rd Doctor and Jo, or especially the 4th Doctor and Sarah. In School Reunion, when Sarah talks to the 10th Doctor about "You Were My Life," or, you know, I met a person once, he was a tough act to follow. I believe that because I get that impression in Classic Who that there was a lot not being said because they really cared a lot about each other. And you get, I think it's there to where it's so subtle that if you see them just as friends, you can see them just as friends. But if there is a possible romantic interest that just never got expressed in words, I can see that. It does it really, really low-key. Another great example is in Survival, the last episode of the classic series. Now, famously, Survival has a lot of lesbian overtones in it, you know, or undertones in it. I don't know which one you'd say. But, you know, there's a lot of subtle lesbian undertones, let's say that. Now, I'm going to be honest, I'd seen Survival several times. I never picked up on any of that, none of that. It wasn't until I read stuff about it. I'm like, really? And then I watched it a couple more times. I'm like, okay, I guess I can see it. But it's done so subtly that it doesn't just jump out at you that, hey, there's some undertones here. You know, it's one of those things where if you want to see it, you can see it, and I'll perfectly accept that because I can see where you're coming from. But I can also see where, that's just, you know, her and that other person happen to get along well. I don't, it's done very subtly, like, okay, we're going to go about 10% in on this, and if somebody picks up on it, they pick up on it. If they don't, they don't. This scene in The Vanquishers is different. It's like, there's no subtlety here. It's like 95% we're going into it. It's just enough to where we can actually deny that's what we're doing. I mean, it's so blatantly obvious. You know, granted, Chris Chibnall wouldn't know the word subtlety if a dictionary open to the word subtlety smacked him in the face. But it's so obvious the way they shoot the scenes with the close-ups and the way they're looking at each other that's obviously what they're trying to show. They go almost all the way and then don't. And that's very frustrating. It's very queerbaity and I don't like it either. Again, I'm not a big fan of the Doctor in relationships anyway. It's not the end of the world, but I'm not a big fan of it. But my point is, BBC, pick one way. Either, you know, go this way and let them have a relationship, or at least start having a relationship before something tragic happens, or just flat out stop even trying to make it look like it. Just pick a direction and go with it and stop trying to have your cake and eat it too. So that's my thoughts on The Vanquishers. I will be doing a review for all of Flux at some point when I feel like I can sit around and talk about it. Ooh. And the sad thing is, I make it look like I just hated the episode, and I didn't hate the episode. I'm just kind of, the problems I have with Flux and with this episode irk me, and part of it's just me being extremely tired. It's been a really long week. But the things that bug me really bug me. Even though there are parts of the story that I think are fine. Parts of the story I especially like. I'm really unhappy about Jericho dying, because I liked Jericho, and his death seemed pointless. It seemed like he's there just to kill him off. And like it's supposed to be momentous. And it's still a neat little death, I'll give it that, but it's pointless. There's no point. There's no reason to do it. There's no reason they should have killed him off. There's no reason. Also, while I'm at it, as I'm just kind of jumping all over the place, why is Diane so smart when she's in Passenger? How does Diane know how to do all this? If she's just a human from Earth. I mean, is she like the master in disguise or something? How is she able to know how to use this kind of technology and cause all of this? I don't... What? I do like the fact that her relationship with Dan is kind of stopped in its tracks because he wasn't there. All of this happened to her because he wasn't there. It's not his fault he wasn't there, as he points out. And I think deep down, she knows that it's not his fault. But since he's so connected with everything that happened to her and why she got roped into it, she can't quite separate that. So she's just uncomfortable around him because of that. I think it's neat to see that there were actual consequences to all of this, because it doesn't seem like a lot more consequences to it. Oh yeah, more stuff to talk about. Boy, I'm really all over the place today. So the universe has been mostly destroyed, and they fixed it by, oh wait, no they don't. Okay, the Flux has destroyed like most of the universe at this point, and they don't fix that. It's not like say the Big Bang where he reboots everything. Nothing! The universe is still like screwed. Now, I don't know if this is something they're going to fix in the specials, or if that's just something... now, don't get me wrong, it's not the first time the universe has been partially destroyed like that. That kind of happened in Legopolis, too. You know, part of the universe was destroyed by entropy, and Tom Baker managed to stop it, but some of it was still gone. If I remember correctly, Traken, Nissa's home planet, was destroyed there, and all of its people, which sucked, if you just watched Keeper of Traken. So it's not the first time something like this has happened, but... I mean, I get the impression that a lot of the universe was destroyed here in Flux. Like a lot of planets. A lot of dead people. A lot of dead people. Again, the Doctor's just kind of like, eh. But they haven't fixed that. Are we going to address this? I feel like something needs to be addressed here. So I just wanted to point that out, that, you know, the universe is still kind of in shambles here, you know. It's like your apartment in college. You know, stuff's just kind of all over the place. Needs some tidying up. I really think there needs to be some resolution to this. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the Doctor spends all of this time, all of Flux, trying to get her memories back. Trying to remember who she was, trying to find out about the division, being upset because I don't know who I am, who am I, la 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 la, where's my past, where's this, I want my memories, yada yada yada. She goes through all of this to finally get the fob watch and then doesn't use it. Why? Don't get me wrong, I've said before, I don't want her to get her memories back. I don't want her to get her memories back. I think that's unnecessary, I think it's silly. But it doesn't make any sense from a narrative standpoint for her to be like, I went through all this trouble to get this. Most of the universe is destroyed. Nah. Yeah, I want you to never show this to me unless I really ask for it. This is a stupid way to do this. I feel like they're teasing us. They're baiting us to almost make us want it when we don't want it. A lot of us don't want it. It's like they want to trick us into wanting it. You know, there's plenty of ways you could have done it. They could have been erased. The fob watch could have been lost by Swarm and Azure. It could have been destroyed. Nope, they purposely make sure she gets it back and goes, you know what? No, I don't want to watch it. Goes through all that. Who does that? Have you ever met anyone with amnesia like, you know, Harrison Ford regarding Henry? Oh, by the way, we've got your memories on this disc. Would you like to watch them? Nah. Like, what? Who does that? It doesn't make any sense from a narrative standpoint. It's like they do that just as a plot device in a story. That's like one of those things like someone would do because they're writing a story, but it wouldn't make any sense in real life. Does that make sense? And it doesn't work for me. I don't understand why she wouldn't want these answers when they're literally in her hand. All you gotta do is go, click. No, nothing. Just drop them into the TARDIS. It's just dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. It's dumb. And you ever get that idea? Chibnall has absolutely no idea what he's doing. So that's been my thoughts on the Vanquishers. If there's anything you want to comment on in my video, please comment down below. I'd love to hear what you thought of the episode and what you thought of Flux as a whole. I will have a video coming up about that eventually. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and would like to contribute to what I do to help me pay for importing some of this stuff in. I live in the States and import a lot of stuff from the UK because I do love Doctor Who quite a bit. Old and new Doctor Who. So if you want to help me out, there's several different tiers there you can check out. You can find a link to that down in the description below. Most importantly, thank you for taking the time to watch this video and take care of yourselves.